text line, yet another second place finish for Arsenal this season after losing 1-0 to West Ham on Saturday. They're now 11 points behind Liverpool, and former invincible Martin Keown thinks this year's failures are down to injuries and ill discipline.
Yeah, I think a combination of the two, Jim. I don't think you can really pick out one above the other. I think the suspension thing, of course, there's been a lack of discipline in that area, but we can go through all 5 of the sending offs if we want to drag it all back, all the way back to Rice and Trossard and Saliba. I think the one at the weekend was definitely a sending off. I think some of the others you could argue that they weren't, Jim. But these, in those games, I think Arsenal only won one match. So you're losing points in the games. You get down to 10 men. Then you've got your suspensions. I think it was critical when they lost Ødegaard very early in the season. He was out for 2 months, and then you've had this catalogue of injuries. The forefront players not available, and at the weekend it was there wasn't that explosive pace in the team. It was flat. It was a difficult. West Ham played very well, Jim, but they sat deep, and Arsenal didn't have the answers, didn't find the solutions in the final third. You can say they need a striker, but there was not enough opportunities created for, even if they did have a striker.
It's an interesting one, that from Martin. I take his point. However, I think the biggest point that he's missed out, yes, they've had a problem with injuries. Yes, ill discipline has cost them. But the biggest thing that's cost them is the fact that Liverpool have been too good.
Yeah, and also I disagree with that, because we did a show earlier on in the season at Ascot, and Martin was there arguing with me that they don't need a striker because Havertz is so good and he's going to score all the goals. So you can't have it each way. Mm-hmm. This is my frustration with the Arsenal argument is very much, Ali, that they talk about like it was just January that they needed a striker.
Yeah.
They've needed a striker for nearly 2.5 years.
Agreed.
So you keep letting those moments pass. Listen, you don't get Osserman or Ivan Toney because attitude, and I totally take that and I understand that. But I would like to think that when you have a group, and again, you could talk to this a lot better than me, when you have a group that's solid and they know the rules and the regs, you can sprinkle a little bit of maverick in there, like Sir Alex did with Eric Cantona.
Because the players will accept it.
Exactly, because they'll go and they'll win you things.
Correct.
And I just think what Arsenal have missed out on is dropping that little bit of a maverick in there and trusting that the group's so strong now that they know what they're doing, but this person's going to get you over the line.
Agreed, mate. Now, it's an interesting article in the Times this morning with Mikel Arteta said coming up short again. They may have to try something drastic. The 4 key areas pointed out are who to sign this summer. Arteta's confident that he can land Zubimendi from Sociedad in the summer.
Another holding midfielder.
Well, that's my point. That's exactly my point to you. I'm in total agreement with you regarding the out-and-out centre-forward. Where else do you think? I mean, is it as clear-cut as it's just an out-and-out centre-forward?
It's a goal scorer, mate. It's a proper goal scorer. Someone that you can rely on in those hard moments is going to deliver. And again, we've both played for teams that when you're in the moment, whether you're 1-0 down and your team are looking around and you get half a chance and you just hit a snapshot and you score, your team has a confidence when they look forward and go, that person's going to get us to goal, whoever that is. And when you're trying to compete and keep up with Salah, Haaland, Isak, you have to be able to have that person. And with Bukayo Saka being out, they don't have that. He's the only one who thinks off the cuff, in my opinion.
The other suggestion was cash in one of the big stars. Money's tight, so selling Saliba at Real Madrid, it says here it might happen to open funds to spend elsewhere. I mean, that's a big gamble.
That's a huge gamble. I didn't think money was tight at Arsenal. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't think money was tight. They did a lot of
you wouldn't have thought so. I mean, if we're led to believe the offer they put in for Watkins, that would suggest whether they were serious about it or not. I mean, and really committed to it's another discussion. But that would indicate you wouldn't have felt money's too tight.
No, but also they sold Smith Rowe, Nelson, those who are 100% profit, aren't they, on PSR? So I think they'll be okay in that point of view. Getting rid of Saliba is a huge call and one you maybe don't ever recover from if you get it wrong. I think when you look through the team, again, when it says Zubimendi, that they got Jorginho 2 years ago. They got Moreno this year. Yeah. So that'd be the third holding midfielder who won't start above the guy you paid 105 million for. I know. In Declan Rice. So it's just another. I just don't think he likes that maverick type up front. I just don't think he wants to be able to not control it, but have to deal with the potential problems of whatever that one person is. I really don't.
I remember it's like a complete change here. I remember Billy Connolly, believe it or not, talking to Walter. Walter always used to tell us, and Billy Connolly, you know, loved his football.
Yeah.
And he was asking Walter, what about Gascoigne, you know? And Walter said to him, you know, he's unbelievable with this, that, and the next, and speaking away. And Billy Connolly said to, it's exactly what we're talking about here. Billy Connolly said to Walter, he says, remember, you have to handle the genius because the genius might not handle you.
Yes.
And it's the point you're making about having somebody in there that's different. And I think you make a really, really good point. All the teams I've played with and all the players I've played with would accept somebody different if they were bringing something different to the party.
Absolutely. How many times have you played for a team and you've had people who you like that? Not they don't put the effort in, but Monday to Friday they just manage themselves.
Yeah.
But then Saturday they're like bang, they just flip the switch and they're unbelievable. And you have to deal with the fact that you don't want him in your team in a small-sided game because
100%.
You're going to lose in the week. But on the weekend, you know it's a different person.
I played with guys like Coop and Brian Loudon, for example. Absolute geniuses. But you wouldn't expect them to follow or they didn't chase their fullback all the way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there was an acceptance. But other players without their talent that could do things, you wouldn't have missed them.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. That's just hierarchies within team structure, right? So you know who your leaders are, who your Mavericks are. But then, you know, it's a saying that most people don't like. But they've got workarounds. You've got people that your job is to be 7 out of 10 every single day.
Correct.
And you know, I just think where we are with Arsenal at this moment, there's a lot of people trying to break it down, but the key point is at the critical time over the last 3 years when they've had the opportunity to kick on, they've fallen short.
Yeah.
And I would always argue because they don't have that killer up front.
Don't necessarily disagree with 03717 223344 is the number to call. And Gary, who's an Arsenal fan, has done that. Good morning, Gary. How are you this morning?
Good morning, gentlemen. Yes.
Morning, guys.
Good, gentlemen. Good morning.
Thanks for taking the time to call us. I want to ask you something before you get your point. Martin, true Arsenal man, great Arsenal man, reckons it's injuries and a little bit of ill discipline. Has that been a little bit harsh on Liverpool, who have been magnificent?
I think Liverpool have been the Arsenal 2 years ago. They've only lost one game, I think. Salah's been banging in goals non-stop, and I think if they'd have lost Salah any time this season, he's been their major outlet. They probably would have struggled a little bit more. But at the moment, they have rode their luck with injuries, I think, and they've got a little bit of a squad. The injuries they've had that have covered that. But they've had the key injuries, I don't think. Fair play to them. They've gone out there. They took the ball by the horns against Man City. Like Martin talks about the energy against West Ham. We didn't have the energy. We didn't look like we had the hunger, which was very worrying. But out went Liverpool, took the ball by the horns. They saw we slipped up, and they went for it. They were there to take it, and that's how you win titles. Gary,
very, very, very quickly, because we do have to go to a break, but just a question. The last 2 years, though, you guys have been on the better end of injuries, right? You've had a decent amount where Saka's played more or less every game, so has Odegaard, and you foul short, you know, to an unbelievable Man City team. I just feel like you don't have that killer up top that everyone can believe in when they go for one goal.
I agree with you, in a way, but those last two seasons, we scored, was it 80 odd goals?
Yeah, 90 goals in one as well. Yeah, if it was 92.
So it's a very sort of, do we go for that and break that up, or I think Arteta didn't see the Martinelli and the injury to Saka, the other players not chipping. I don't know where it suddenly changed. Did he change his methods to tighten up a bit, or did he stop the cavalier football? I don't really know. But we had 83 odd goals with the top goal scorers. And on the Saliba front, I don't think we'll sell Saliba. We've got 6 or 7 players who are going to go out the door, I think, this summer. And I think that will give us the funds to hopefully fill in the gaps we're missing at the moment.
Brilliant, Gary. Listen, mate, thanks for your time this morning. Great call.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.